Three, two, one. Alright, grade 9. In today's session, we will continue speaking about the emphasizement and knowledge for the Muslim world. So let's just delete, and take all of this out. Okay, it's page 273, yeah, and 274. Okay, so we'll just start by revising. I can start reading, not read. Okay, or start to read. So we have started speaking about the emphasizement on knowledge yesterday. So why do you think the Muslim people first took great interest in knowledge? And did they really take a great interest in knowledge or no?
Yeah, they did, and there is also that is in the Quran. There's also studies in the Quran
Yes.
that has been mentioned, and Allah really spoke with which
So the first
got the
verse
interest.
revealed in the Holy Quran is read,
Yeah,
right? Okay, and our Prophet, peace be upon him, also he emphasized on the importance of knowledge by telling us that ask for education or knowledge from cradle to grave, and also ask for knowledge even if it was in China. And all of this tells us about the importance of knowledge. Consequently, we have a great interest in knowledge by the Muslim people. Okay, Salim, you may start, but if your mic is broken, we can use someone else.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Although Muhammad could neither read or write, his respect for learning inspired Muslims to make great advances in philosophy, history, mathematics, and the sciences. Wealthy families might educate their boys and even allow their girls to learn to read and write in order to study the Quran. Most people, however, were illiterate and they memorized the Quran. Institutions of higher learning included schools for religious instructions and for the study of Islamic law.
So simply to begin with, our Prophet, peace be upon him, he could not read and write. Consequently, he just emphasized on the importance of knowledge. He told us on all Muslims to take great interest in education. That's why people started to send their children to school. At the beginning of the whole thing, only the boys were sent to schools, but later only girls and also boys were sent to school, and sometimes they were home educated. And most of the men back then were learning only about the study of the Islamic law. The Muslim Center of Learning, we have spoken also yesterday about the centers of learning, including the city of Baghdad. The city of Baghdad became one of the greatest Muslim centers of learning as Khalifa al-Ma'mun and also Abbas II. They started to make the city absorb most of the knowledge in that era from all the diverse civilization, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Greek, Indian, Persian, Chinese, all of them. They asked and sent for people in order to have their knowledge translated into Baghdad. That's why we found out that Baghdad was one of the most important centers for learning. Ibrahim, you can read this part. Or wait, Walid, read this part, and Ibrahim will read about philosophy because he forgot about it.
What?
Read this part, please. Muslim centers of learning.
The Caliph al-Mamun and his successor established Baghdad as the greatest Muslim center of learning. Its libraries attracted well-paid and highly respected scholars. Other cities like Cairo, Cordoba, and Timbuktu were also known as centers of learning. In these places, scholars made advances in philosophy, science, mathematics, medicine, and other fields. They also preserved the learning of earlier civilizations by translating ancient Persian, Sanskrit, and Greek texts into Arabic.
And by the way, the translator were given the weight of their book in gold. And I really wish if I lived in that era, I would have become super wealthy. All right, so next part to speak about philosophy and history. Of course, Muslim people, they took great interest in philosophy and also in history. Some of the great philosophers in the era of the Muslim civilization was Ibn Rushd. The point about Ibn Rushd, he did not just write about philosophy, but he His ideas actually went against every idea at his time. That's why they burned his own books. Some of the books actually survived, and they escaped. Some of his friends, of course, escaped his books into Europe, and later his books were translated into many languages. Ibn Rushd, he did not just invent philosophy, yet he took the old philosophy that of Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, all of the great philosophers over the course of history, and he changed them, altered them to fit in the Islamic culture. And also he emphasized about the importance of beauty, the importance of literature, and the importance of learning and education. That's why we are considering him one of the most important philosopher over the course of the Islamic era. Ibrahim?
Yes. Okay. Studying philosophy and history, Muslim scholars translated the works of the Greek philosophers as well as many Hindu and Buddhist texts. Scholars, well as many Hindu and Buddhist scholars, tried to harmonize Greek ideas about reason with religious beliefs based on divine revelation. And Qurtuba, the philosopher Ibn Rushd, known in Europe as Averroes, put all knowledge except the Quran to the test of reason. His writings on Aristotle were translated into Latin and influenced Christian scholastics in medieval Europe. Another Arab thinker, Ibn Khaldun, set standards for the scientific.
So, first we spoke about the philosophy, and regarding philosophy, we had Ibn Rushd, or as was known in Europe, Averroes. Averroes. So, Ibn Rushd, or Averroes, as known in Europe, this man, he was super intelligent. Super. Very good. And actually, the idea behind thinking beyond your era, not like anyone in your society. So that actually what made Ibn Rushd super known right now. Those people who went against Ibn Rushd, we can't even know their names, right? But Ibn Rushd, because he had such ideas that differentiated his own thinking about other people in his era, so we still know him. On the other hand, of the course of history, we were speaking about Ibn Khaldun. So Ibn Khaldun, he was a historian, like any other historians in the history. But what actually differentiated Ibn Khaldun from any other historian was the standards he has set. Because the standards Ibn Khaldun set, he set it as scientific study of history. Scientific study of history. Simply, he was seeking true history, not the fake one. Ibrahim?
Another Arab thinker, Ibn Khaldun, set standards for the scientific study of history. He stressed economics and social structure as causes of historical events. He also warned about common causes of error in historical writing, such as bias, exaggeration, and overconfidence in the accuracy of sources. Ibn Khaldun urged historians to trust sources only after a thorough investigation.
So, simply, Ibn Khaldun said that, okay, you are writing about history. That's pretty cool, actually. You can do that. But while writing about history, you need to know that we have bias, we have exaggeration, we have overconfidence, and all of these things lead into writing false history. And that's what we do not want. We need our history to be true one. So, for example, the example I gave you yesterday about someone who's very bad. For example, Kim Jong Un, for example. This man is living now in our era, and people really are afraid of him. Yesterday, I believe Salim said that he was a dictator. Salim Walid, one of them. I can't remember. So this man right now, for us, he's a dictator, right? But in his country, people write very beautiful books about him. They write about his morals, they write about his qualification, they have about his personality, and these books are in the streets. So 50 years from now, if we do not change the image, if we did not make our study scientific about history, then those people will think that Kim Jong-un is the perfect guy and the other people are the bad, right? That's why Ibn Khaldun, he strengthened the seek for knowledge as a scientific study. Any questions so far?
No, thanks.
So that was a quick revision about what we have already studied. So moving into the new part, which is advances in math and also astronomy. Once again, do you think any civilization which really is a good civilization? We're speaking about any civilization that we have studied. We started with the Mesopotamian, the Egyptian, Indian, Chinese, American, Greek, Roman, Byzantine, all of these civilizations. Why do they take great interest in mathematics and astronomy? The same question to be asked at any civilization, taking great interest in both mathematics and astronomy. Why?
Astronomy could be
Because
a way like of a GPS, like you can know where you are from like astronomy knowledge, and
Right,
mathematics is just the basic of everything around us.
that's it. So, number one, people in the ancient civilization took great interest in astronomy simply because they were polytheists and they needed to know their creatures, their creators, where they live. They also believed about planets, stars, and all of this. Not only this, yet they also tried to uh, prophesizing their fortunes by knowing the place of the stars and the planets. Consequently, they took great interest in astronomy. For mathematics, simply as Ibrahim said, it's the basic science of any other science. If you are studying, let's say, chemistry, you need mathematics. You are studying physics, you need math. You need astronomy, we have to study mathematics. So mathematics is the basic of any other science. So we cannot study one science apart from any other science. So the question here is, did the Arab people, the Muslim ones, excelled in both mathematics and astronomy?
Could you repeat that?
Did the Muslim civilization excel, were great, were good in mathematics and astronomy?
Yeah, they were the center of knowledge of the world at the time.
Yep, that's a fact. Did you know that for astronomy, the Arab people could know thus now we are using the GPS in order to travel, right? But if you don't have a GPS, can you travel via the desert?
They
No,
use
like
stars
nowadays,
to
no.
like
But
know the
back
north.
then, they had their ways, and they could just by themselves. Like looking at the stars, and
Exactly.
they can know where they are.
So actually, back then they had the ability to locate and to know their location just by looking at the sky. Just imagine. So they really excelled in astronomy. And regarding mathematics, they set a whole science of mathematics, like Al-Khawarizmi, for example. So this man, he was a leader, he was a pioneering one. He just set the whole study and the whole principle of algebra, what we are studying nowadays, which is known in Arabic as algebra. So this man Al-Khwarizmi, he just said the whole thing about mathematics. We just would have never become anything without a man like Al-Khwarizmi. So, Monsieur Joe, although that you are late, but I'll give you the chance to read
Yes, thank you very much for this honor. I am very honored to. Where do I read? Just
mathematics and astronomy.
advances in mathematics and astronomy. One of the greatest Muslim mathematicians was Al-Khwarizmi. He pioneered the study of algebra from the Arabic word al-jabr in the 1800s. He wrote a book that was translated into Latin and became a standard mathematics textbook in Europe. Like many of the scholars at the time, Al-Khwarizmi contributed to other fields too. He developed a set of astronomical tables based on Greek and Indian discoveries. Muslim scholars studied the works of the ancient Greek, such as Euclid and Ptolemy. They translated these and other ancient mathematical works in Arabic and used them as basis for a complete system of mathematics, including an organized method for equations. Soon Muslim works on mathematics spread to Europe where they studied with interest. Over
All right,
time,
so we're speaking number one about Al-Khwarizmi as a great Muslim scholar who just tends to invent a whole curriculum or a whole set of science, which is algebra. Not only this, but of course, by using his own science, he started to contribute in other fields, like the astronomical tables he has already made. And we have other scholars like Euclid and also Ptolemy, which we have already studied. Both of them, they also translated many of the works of the other ancient mathematicians, and also they started to contribute in increasing the mathematics and also astronomy sciences and the Arab people, including, of course, the organized method for equations, and soon also the Muslim market on mathematics spread to Europe, and the European people adapted that and started to study that. Later, over time, Europeans in all fields of business adapted Hindu-Arabic numerals, and I believe we have spoken about that before, right?
yes, how the numbers that are Arabic now were Indian before, but the English numbers are Arabic numbers, and
Yep. So
someone
those
just
are the
mixed
Arab
matched the
numbers.
numbers of the world.
And of course, if you went here to change them, you will find that the numeral is Arabic. Bingo. Sorry for that. I had a phone call. So once again, we're speaking about the numerals and how that our numerals are the Hindu and the Arabic ones were adapted by the European people. So over time, Europeans in all fields of business adapted the Arabic Hindu, the Arabic numerals, and also used them in their day-to-day lives. They also adapted new tools and technologies developed or improved by Muslim astronomers, including the quadrant and also the astro astrolabe. Of course, the astrolabe was created and invented by Maryam al-Astrolabi, which was one of the most important and significant astronomers at the time. These two instruments were used to observe the position of the stars and also aid in navigation. So simply, the Arab Muslim people and scholars, they set the whole science of both mathematics and also astronomy. So far, so good.
Yes,
All right, what about improvements in medicine? Surely, once you have all of these fields and you have advancement of all of these fields, it's pretty easy to take also important in mathematics, medicine, astronomy, all of the other fields. And to speak about the improvement of medicine, we just don't rely all of this for the study and the scholars, but simply, guys, the Muslim people they started. The Muslim people they started to stretch and strengthen their own empire, to move from one city to the other city, spreading Islam. And while doing so, they got some injuries. They had wars, and while wars, they tend to do what? they tend to what to treat their illnesses. Right now we are going to war, and one of us got injured. Okay, so Nawaf, are you with us?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, can you repeat the improvements on medicine?
Improvements in medicine. Building on the knowledge of the ancient Greeks, Muslims made remarkable advances in medicine and public health. Under the Caliph, physicians and pharmacists had to pass a test before they could practice their professions. The government set up hospitals where injured people could get quick treatment at a facility similar to today's emergency room. Some physicians traveled to rural areas to provide health care to those who could not get to a city, while others regularly visited jails. One of the most original
No, stop here, please.
oh,
What do you think of this first paragraph here? Can you explain it, Nawaf?
I think teacher he mean that they will put a room before like emergency room today for because before they have a lot of wars and problem
Yes.
because that they say why we didn't study medicine and put hospitals and put
Okay, that's a good way. So,
one
simply, guys, to speak about any civilization, okay, to become a civilization, you must take great interest in two things. Two things. Number one, agriculture. Number one, agriculture. Number two, medicine. Come again. To become a well-dependent civilization, strong civilization, you must first take care of the agriculture, and second, you must take care of medicine. Agriculture, of course, in order to feed your own people, and medicine to take great importance and interest in them. So, to do that, the Muslim people they started to take great importance in medicine, beside other things, like for example the war that they had. And in order to do so, they started to adapt knowledge from other civilizations and other people, like the Greek, the Egyptian, the Mesopotamian. All the civilization at that time started to adapt their information about medicine and also to change that into a way that can help us even more better. On the other hand, we have some of the most important scholars and medical thinkers of that era. Continue now, please.
one of the most original medical thinkers was Muhammad al-Razi. He's a physician at Baghdad Chief Hospital. He wrote many books in medicine, including a pioneering study of measles and smallpox. He also challenged accepted medical practice, treat the mind as well as the body. He advised young doctors. He theorized that if doctors were hopeful with their patients, recovery would be faster. The famous Persian physician Ibn Sina was known in Europe as Avicenna. By the age of 16, he was a doctor to the Persian nobility. His great work was the canon in medicine. a huge encyclopedia of what the Greeks, the Arabs, and himself had learned about diagnosing and treating disease. The book includes many prescriptions made with such ingredients as mercury from Spain, myrrh from East Africa, and camphor from India.
All right, so we're speaking about two of the most important surgeons and doctors at that time, Muhammad al-Razi and also Ibn Sina. Muhammad al-Razi, he was a physician at Baghdad Chief Hospital. So this man, he was just, come on, he was awesome. We're speaking about hundreds of years ago, and this man could perform surgeons and surgery. Actually, he was a surgeon. Come on, he invented some tools beside al-Zahrawi, of course, which we have once spoken about, and the tools that both of them invented are still to be used today in surgery. On the other hand, Ibn Sina, he was a genius. I cannot describe him, but anything but a genius. Really, 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 he was a genius boy. At the age of 16, okay, this boy became a doctor to the Persian nobility. Just imagine, just a kid, 16 years old, and the Persian nobility, the noble people, the elite people, he became their doctor. And his greatest achievement was a book called Qanun on Medicine, the Law of Medicine. This book actually it was like a huge encyclopedia about what the Greeks, Arab, and also himself had learned about diagnosing and treating diseases. And here lies the genius of Ibn Sina, because he did not just treat illnesses, yet he put the standards on how to diagnose symptoms and reach the treatment before even the patient starts to decay and to fail. And that's actually what was very, very important about him. Okay, guys. So we have two of the most important doctors and physicians at that time, Arazi and also Ibn Sina. Continue, Nawaf, please.
Yes, teacher. Other Muslim surgeons developed a way to treat cataracts, drawing fluid out of eye lenses with a hollow needle. For centuries, surgeons around the world used this method to save patients' eyesight. Arab pharmacists were the first to mix bitter medicines into sweet tasting syrups and gums.
All
Eventually,
right.
these and other Muslims' medical ideas spread to Europe. European physicians began to attend Muslim universities in Spain. Arabic medical texts were translated into Latin, and the works of Avicenna and Al-Razi became the standard medical textbook at European school for 500 years.
All right. So we're speaking also about not only the surgeon of the Muslim Empire were very excellent, but also other people like the pharmacists. The pharmacists actually, we always hear that medicine tastes very, very bad. So the pharmacists of the Muslim Empire, they were very, very magnificent and also smart that they started to mix the better medicines into sweet tasting syrups and gums. So by adding some herbs and he changed the idea behind having the medicine. So now you can have the medicine and also it's gonna be pretty good for you. And eventually these and other Muslim medical ideas spread to Europe, and the European people adapted it. Also, the European physicians began to attend Muslim universities in Spain. The Arab medical texts were translated into Latin, and also the work of Avicenna or Ibn Sina and Al-Razi became the standard medical textbooks at European schools for over 500 years. So simply, to become a doctor or to become a surgeon or a physician, you must study the books of Al-Razi, Al-Zahrawi, and Ibn Sina first. Through his or through this diffusion of ideas, the European were introduced to the concepts of training physicians and also creating hospital. So we can simply speak about how the Muslim people excelled in all parts of emphasizing for their knowledge. Everything in life is a negotiation. No, when you cross the street is a negotiation. Imagine a tiny place where people from all around work together to develop new inventions, discover new knowledge, and understand more about our universe. A place where the language and science used to make the world a better place. Such a time and place existed. It was a long time ago, and it's almost been forgotten. Many centuries ago, there lived a Muslim polymath by the name of Ibn Sina. He was born in 980 AD and was arguably one of the most important doctors and philosophers of his time. Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, as he is referred to in English, was one of the smartest people of his time. So much so that he outsmarted all of his teachers, and finding a tutor for him was a very difficult task. Hello, I am Ibn Sina, or as many will know me as Avicenna. I am the father of modern medicine. My work in medicine was mainly about the prevention of diseases rather than the treatment, which is prevention of diseases, which is diagnosing first and then preventing the patient from getting sicker and that's actually the series I'm watching nowadays about Dr. House. Important in today's world. I left behind a lot of advice on the use of herbal medicine and biologically active points for various diseases. By the age of 14, Ibn Sina had mastered many subjects and memorized the Quran. And at 16, he began to practice and learn about medicine. Although Ibn Sina learned a lot about law and natural sciences, his main talent was in medicine. At the age of 18, he famously cured a Samanid chief and was a master in the most important works in science. And by 20, he was one of the wisest people of his time. And so, as we see great Muslim minds have walked this earth, as scholars, scientists, doctors, philosophers, and engineers, the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. So if we dare to imagine like those before us, we will become creators, bring brains to life. And that was about Ibn Sina. Yeah. Any questions so far about the development of the Muslim civilization and knowledge?
No, thank you.
You are very, very welcome. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you tomorrow.
Take care, Mr. Ahmed.
You too.
Goodbye.
Bye.